You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean,
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the Resistance, Friday, March 22nd. I'm Dean Obeidallah, and obviously the big story, Robert Mueller has submitted his report to the Department of Justice. What began May 17, 2017, only 8 days after Donald Trump fired James Comey in an attempt to obstruct justice, in my view, Rod Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller. And his job, he was mandated by the actual order by Rod Rosenstein, very clearly, quote, to investigate any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump, and secondly, any matters that arise from that. Well, nearly after 2 years, we have a report submitted today. We cannot see the report yet. So there's a lot of speculation. It's like cable news is the craziest fodder ever. This is like catnip for cable news because no one's wrong. And the same thing here. We all get to have a discussion about what might be in the report. And that's what we're going to discuss, obviously, in the first hour. What could be in it? What might not be in it? What's the next steps? I'll go through a little about the DOJ regulations. Danny Savalas, MSNBC legal analyst, will join us a little later in the hour to go through some of that as well. What we do know, few things we know. Department of Justice is saying there'll be no more indictments by Robert Mueller of anyone. That means, in all likelihood, Donald Trump Jr. will not be indicted. Not Donald Trump. That is different. But a lot of us thought Donald Trump Jr. might get indicted. He's not being indicted by Robert Mueller. He might something else. We'll get into that. And what we know is that Bob Barr, the Attorney General, was recently confirmed, has sent a letter a short time ago to the chairs of various House and Senate committees, writing to notify, pursuant to 28 Code of Federal Regulations, Section 600.9A3, Special Counsel Robert Mueller has concluded his investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 election and related matters. A few points from this letter I'll highlight because I think these are important. One is just sort of a housekeeping thing, but it answers a question that I would have had concerns about, and I'm glad that this is in the letter. It states that nothing that Robert Mueller asked for was ever stopped by the Department of Justice. And they say there was no such instances during special counsel investigation where something was deemed inappropriate or unwarranted to pursue. Just give us great confidence in this investigation that they didn't stop Robert Mueller because he had to say that, Barr. Now it says here, the special counsel submitted to me today a, quote, confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions he has reached as required by 28 Code of Federal Regulations, Section 600.8C1. So that's the bottom line here. There's the big question. What is in this report? Now he's saying, I remain committed to as much transparency as possible. I will keep you informed as to the status of my review, even saying we might get information this weekend, more information. What might we get? What's going on here? Everyone wants to know, is Donald Trump going to jail tomorrow? I'm not sure, but before we get into anything, let me point out one really important thing, something that I've been saying before, and I think it's so important now. I want us to remove Donald Trump from office on November 3rd, 2020. That's what I want. In my heart, that's what I want. Robert Mueller's report's going to be submitted and gone through, and there's going to be fights over what can be released, and Congress might move, they might not, and we'll debate if someone can be indicted or not. But if I had my choice, it would be to utterly decimate Donald Trump and the GOP party that's been complicit in his corruption, his bigotry, and his racism and sexism on November 3rd, 2020, sending a strong message to this entire country. This is not what we are about. That's what I want in my heart. The same way, November 2018, we came out and we won 40 House seats. And we had a record margin of victory. We got 53% of the vote. They got 45%. If we can mirror that in 2020, we win the White House, we keep the House, and we win the Senate. If we can do that again. So I'm not saying this just to temper you about Mueller. I have no idea what we're going to see. It might say things that make everyone happy. But still, I'm telling you, I want us to be the ones that defeat him so badly that he has to put his head down in shame and walk out of that White House in January of 2021 and then gets indicted that day. Because regardless of the Mueller report, there's an investigation right now in the U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York, and in their own pleadings, to remind you, this is not speculation, in the pleadings of the prosecutors here in New York, they've identified Donald Trump as individual one, as someone involved in a conspiracy to violate federal election campaign laws. There's no debating that. Donald Trump, if not but for being president, would have been charged when Michael Cohen was charged over that. And especially when they got Michael Cohen cooperating and testifying under oath. He's also being investigated very vigorously by the New York Attorney General, Tish James, for violations of other laws, especially related to his charity, which it is very clear he used as a personal piggy bank, did not in any way meet up with the statute that has to do with having a charity here in New York. Does that rise to the level of criminal activity? That's a question that they're going to have to answer as time goes on. So a few quick things here before, and we'll take calls. I'd love to hear what you think. Danny Savalas will join us a little bit. So what is Barr, the Attorney General, required to release? Well, it's all by federal regulation, folks. This is not guessing here. He has to give the notification, which he did to the chairs and ranking minority members of the Judiciary Committee of each house. He did that. He released that to the public. There are a lot of questions. What does he have to release? Well, there is certain information that is going to be confidential, and I say that in good faith. There's going to be good faith statements that certain things are confidential, such as grand jury testimony is generally deemed secret, that there might be privileged information about the workings of the government that has nothing to do with criminality, but they go, that should not be released. That's all fine. That's going to be a normal thing. It's a question of what else in there that the Attorney General Barr wants to save Donald Trump, his boss, from having the public know. Now, the question is, could Congress subpoena the full report? Can they subpoena Robert Mueller? The short answer, and everyone's going to hate this, but the short answer and the correct answer is maybe. Maybe they can. Maybe they can get some of it through subpoenas. Maybe they can have Robert Mueller testify. They can recreate Robert Mueller's entire investigation, though. There's no doubt about that. Democrats control the House. They can go through all the witnesses Robert Mueller had testified before the grand jury, subpoena all of them to testify in open court, open hearings, and we can see all the testimony. It would just take a long, long process. It's not going to be as simple, and you're going to have Republicans mudding up the waters. You can do it that way. That takes a long time. You can do that. So we're going to see more. And before we get up in arms about what is Attorney General Barr going to keep from us or not, let's see what he releases. And I can assure you, because we worked so hard and we got the House back, that we have people like Gerald Nadler and Elijah Cummings and Adam Schiff as chairs of committees, and there's no way they can bury this or hide this. We're going to find out what's in it. And the investigation continues on into Donald Trump. Right as we sit here, they're investigating Donald Trump in the Southern District of New York. There's no doubt about it. You know, what does this report say? I mean, that's the big question. How is it formatted? Does it say things like, we find Donald Trump violated this federal statute and this person violated this statute, or back and forth? And it really comes down to Trump, because anyone else they found, they would have charged. What we do know is this will not look like the Ken Starr report. And to remind people about that one, produced in 1998 after the Bill Clinton investigation, you can find it online. It is a remarkable, detailed report. I've talked about it many times, like 11 different counts of substantial, incredible evidence that you should impeach Bill Clinton. This was Ken Starr's report, and it had all attachments, and you click on it. It was remarkable. It literally prosecuted Bill Clinton, that report. This report will not look like that. That report was under a different federal regulation and gave much more leeway. We're not going to see that. So the question is, what are the likely or possible criminal charges? Clearly obstruction of justice with Donald Trump. Clearly. I say this with all objectivity as I possibly can muster as a lawyer. What Donald Trump did in asking James Comey early in his presidency in February 2017 to let his buddy Michael Flynn go, then to have dinner with him a little before that and say, can I get your loyalty? And then to fire him saying it was for the Russia thing, as he told Lester Holt. If that's not obstruction of justice, I don't know what could be, because simply obstruction of justice is any corruptly motivated action to impede an investigation. And corruptly is the term actually in the federal statute. And just to define it simply in plain language as human beings, corruptly means with an improper motive. a proper motive, you could have a proper motive to ask someone to do something and have an impact on the investigation. An improper motive is, I'm trying to protect my friends from going to jail. I'm trying to protect my family from going to jail. I'm trying to protect myself from going to jail, so I'm going to obstruct or impede an investigation. That's what Donald Trump was doing. Donald Trump also lying surrounding the meeting at Trump Tower in June 2016, which we didn't find out about till a year later, and Trump knew all about it, I have no doubt. That potentially could be obstruction, potentially. That was lying to the public, but perhaps there could be lies under oath that Donald Trump answered his questions to Robert Mueller. That would be obstruction. That would be also Section 1001 violation of federal law. It's a catch-all if you lie during any kind of proceeding. That could be there. I think you see that, but I don't know if Robert Mueller's report is written like Ken Starr's. I mean, Ken Starr's report literally said, Article 1 of the impeachment should be this. Here's our credible and evidence of this count. You're not going to have that. I think it's going to be much more of a roadmap, leaving it for the attorneys involved, the various committees, and the members of Congress to do what they want to do. The big question is, will there be evidence? And now I go back to the actual document, May 17, 2017, that Rod Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller, and the mandate was very specific to investigate, quote, any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump. Did they find Donald Trump conspired with the Russians? There is smoke. I can't say smoking gun. There is evidence. Donald Trump, we know through other testimony, assuming it's credible. Michael Cohen testified just a few weeks ago that in mid-July 2016, he's in the office there. Roger Stone calls on a speakerphone in front of him, and Trump says, we took to WikiLeaks. They're about to dump stuff. And he goes, that's great. Within a few days later, that's when Donald Trump made the famous statement, Russia, if you're listening, it'd be great if you can find Hillary's emails. That also comes 1 month after the Trump Tower meeting that no one can believe that Donald Trump didn't know about that. And that meeting was Russia's effort. And in the emails sent to Donald Trump Jr., very specifically, this is part of Russia and its government's efforts to help your father win an election. So is there more? Is that enough? Or is this report simply Robert Mueller going, this is what we found. We found this, that, this, all the things I'm saying. You do what you will with it. It's up to you, members of the Congress, the House and the Senate. What will you do with it? You know, is there a chance that it says Donald Trump would be indicted, but we had to decline indicting him because the Department of Justice regulations say we cannot indict a sitting president? That could be in there. Again, there's no wrong answers. That's the weird thing in this. There's just more plausible answers than others. That's what it comes down to. So, all right, why don't we take a quick break? We'll have Danny Savalas join us for a little bit, MSNBC legal analyst. Then we'll take calls from you after Danny chats with us for a little bit because I'd love to hear what you think. And again, I don't want people to be disappointed by this report. We won the midterm big. We are going to win in 2020 if we work just as hard, if not, in fact, harder. We're going to win big. Let Robert Mueller, let this report come down. We'll see what it finds. Do not lose hope. Do not be despondent. Do not be tempered in your excitement. Picture the day that we destroy Donald Trump in November, and that's the result I want. So let's take a break, come back, talk to Danny. Then we're going to take your calls, 866-997-4748. Be right back.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Voting is the most important civil right of our era because the right to vote preserves